Are we live? Oh, yes, we are. Hi, ladies. It's Amy here at Fit and Fierce Over 40. I missed you guys the last couple of weeks. I was traveling in Turkey. I was doing a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat in Turkey, and I was all caught up in the event. It was fantastic. It was a 7-day event, and we literally was in session for 13 hours. We start at like 6 in the morning, went to like 7:30 at night. And there were some days that we even started at 4 a.m., if you can believe it or not. And we spent a lot of time learning and meditating. Anyways, I want to show you what I got while I was there. My girlfriend just stopped and dropped some of my goodies off because they didn't fit in my suitcase. Look at my new slippers. Aren't they great? Anyways, I wanted to pop on here because I want to talk about guilt and shame around food. So let me know if you're someone that feels guilty or shameful for the foods that you eat or the foods that you think about eating, the foods that you want to eat. Because I know a lot of women do feel that way when it comes to food. And a good indication if you do feel that way is just think about the language that women use amongst one another when we're in groups or with amongst friends and what have you. So I jot down some of the key ones, and you tell me if this sounds familiar to you at all. So the language, okay, so I should work out harder tomorrow if I eat that. I shouldn't eat that. Or that's so bad for you, or that's so bad for me. That's so tempting. I really want it, but ... fill in the blanks. Do those sound familiar at all? Yeah, and that's how we speak when you think about it, and it goes on all day long. I mean, I'm in conversations with lots of women, and we get caught up in that language, and that's really around guilt and shame around food that we want to eat, and that's because of the diet culture. The diet culture is not a very good culture for us. If you haven't discovered that already, it certainly doesn't do anything for our weight loss. It doesn't get rid of your weight permanently, as we all know. And as well as they don't teach you how to love our bodies. The diet culture doesn't teach us that. And on top of that, diet culture is not teaching us healthy relationship with our food. And that's why women are in so much pain and anguish when it comes to their bodies, because we're so caught up in the diet culture, and we can't even blame ourselves because that diet culture out there is just so massive. You might have heard me say this before. And in the States, in America, it's worth $72 billion annually. That's with a B, and that's over the course of 12 months. And in Canada, we're literally a tenth of the population, and it's worth $7 billion. So these are massive machines that are dictating how we behave, how we think, how we feel about ourselves, right? So it's that is no good. All right. So anyways, where am I? Jot down a bunch of notes here. So the reason why it's important to heal your relationship with food is because we're not allowing ourselves to enjoy the food that we want to eat. That's primarily number one, right? Is when you think about it, when you're always feeling bad for the foods that you eat, it doesn't make you feel good. Okay, that's one of them. And so what does that mean? It basically means that we're restricting ourselves around food. Oh, I shouldn't eat this. I shouldn't eat that. We call this the forbidden food list, right? So cakes, cookies, wine, chicken wings, and so on. All the fun food, I call it, ends up being on the forbidden food list, and that's what makes us feel guilty and shame for those for wanting them, right? And then so what does that mean afterwards? It creates a feast or famine. You restrict yourself from all these types of foods until holiday dinner comes around. You're like, you start stressing around the food. You feel like you're gonna lose control, and that's because you're not allowing yourself to have these types of foods, right? So holiday dinners, you can't take it anymore. You're stressing, you're salivating. You're crawling in your skin. You want it, but you shouldn't have it. Like this battle going on in your head. Does anybody ever suffer? Does that sound familiar at all? Like, please let me know. And so then that leads to binging, right? So you don't allow yourself to have it for a week, 2 weeks, months, years, or whatever until you're faced with it. And then you feel like you can't control yourself. You feel like that piece of cake that you normally would have had if you allowed yourself to have it now looks like you're going to eat the whole entire thing, right? And that's no fun. Then you feel gross afterwards because, like, having a piece of cake or two tastes good and it feels good. Once you start, eating way too much of it, your tummy doesn't feel so good. And then you start feeling like guilt and shame all over again. And it's that treadmill that just keeps going around and around and around. And women don't get off that treadmill. It's guilt and shame deprivation, guilt and shame deprivation. You might have heard me say this before. All right. And the whole cycle begins all over again. And for a lot of women, I say years and decades, but it's really decades. This is what we're doing to ourselves for decades. I've talked to women, I talk to women all day long. The one woman I talked to would have been back in the spring. And I asked her how long she's been feeling this way for around food. And she said since in her 20s. And I asked her how old she was, and she's turning 60. That's 4 decades, 40 years. That's huge. That's a long, long, long time. So imagine the freedom for a moment of going to a dinner party and seeing all your favorite foods and feeling like you can take it or you can leave it, and there's no attachment towards it, either positively or negatively. Imagine what that feels like. Well, you know what? That is actually possible. And I'm going to give you one easy tip that you can implement right away to start creating a healthy relationship around food. And that is, it's basically honoring your hunger and giving yourself permission to eat. So that means eating when you're hungry and working on stopping when you're full. That's one. And really it's about, and if this is a new concept for you, it's important to do it gradually. This is not a license to eat everything you want, everything in sight. It's not a free for all, okay? Because that's just going to get you in trouble again. It's important to the point that I'm trying to make here is that you want to plan your meals. Planning your meals give you a sense of control, at the same time giving yourself permission to eat the foods that you want the foods that you want to eat and enjoy. Because, chips, cakes, cookies, cupcakes, wine, all candies, all those things are enjoyable. They might not have high nutritional value in them, but not everything is 100%. We don't want to aim for 100%. You want to aim for a little bit better than you did yesterday, a little bit better than you did last week, a little bit better than you did last month. You have to aim for a trajectory of going in this upward motion and less about peaks and valleys, right? You want to go high, low, happy, sad, guilt, shame, deprivation. That's not really what we're aiming for. So as long as you're going in this continuum, that's really the key here. So one thing you can do is planning your meals. So whether you're a 3 meal a day person with 2 or 3 snacks through the day, or if you're 2 meal and no snacks, or whatever your eating habits may be, planning your meal and allowing those types of foods, the fun foods, and incorporate them throughout your day and plan for them is really a good way to create that positive, healthy relationship with food. So if it's like having a small piece of cake for dessert on certain nights of the week, or you have a handful of chips on one day and you have, a couple of candies the next day, incorporating them into your day can make a huge difference in creating that healthy relationship with your food. So plan your meals and snacks here, ladies. Doesn't mean you need to plan for a whole month. If you're someone that needs to plan 3 days in advance and that works for you, absolutely. If you feel better planning your food a week in advance, that is also good. So there's no hard and fast rule other than whatever works for you is going to work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, it's all about trial and error and figuring out what plan and what to incorporate and what fun foods you want to incorporate into your day. All right, so hopefully that helps. Let me know if this was helpful to you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down here below, and I'm more than happy to answer them for you. All right, talk to you soon. Bye for now.